In this video, we are going to do a quick review of some measures of central tendency. And what are those? And so there's a list of them here. So one of the main ones within a measure of central tendency is a mean. So finding the arithmetic mean. Very, very fancy version, fancy way of describing average. So mean, which is really the average, is usually something that when you put the word average on it, people are more comfortable with it. But just a quick refresher on how do you find an average. Average is going to be the sum of a bunch of values divided by the number of those values. So you may have 10 numbers, you may have 20 numbers, number of values. Okay, so sum divided by how many? So as you go through this, especially if we do some stuff on the calculator with it, we got to figure out, there is a way to find a whole bunch of different information on your calculator using the stats app within it. But if you're just doing it kind of by hand, more or less calculator, you're going to add up a bunch of numbers and you're going to divide by how many of those numbers you have. But eventually, when you do throw something into a calculator, it's going to give you a bunch of values, especially if you're going to connect some standard deviation, some stat stuff to it. You want to know what symbol represents that. So this with a little, it's called X bar, that represents mean. Okay, and so on the next video or another one, we'll show you how to use your calculator. That will get you a bunch of information all at one time, and you just need to be able to recognize that that one represents the average. Okay, and then another one that you're going to see is this, which is called sigma, and that represents sum. Okay, so for now, we're just going to be kind of doing the more straightforward version of this. We have a bunch of numbers, and we're going to find the average of it. It says find the mean, so we're going to find the average. So we're going to take the 68 plus the 84 plus the 76 plus the 72 plus the 80, and we're going to divide it by the fact that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. All right, so if we threw that into a calculator, that would add up to 380, and then I'm going to take that 380 and divide it by 5, which equals 76. So 76 is our average. All right, and then same thing here. Just because you have decimals doesn't mean anything different. So we're going to be doing it to the nearest pound. So if you have 21 plus 33 plus 12.5 plus 35.2, add all those together and divide by 4 because there's 4 numbers. So if you threw that into the calculator, that would add up to 101.7 divided by 4. So this one's going to go for a while. All right, so if you take that, if we take that 101.7, and if you divide it by 4, you're going to get some values to it, but we're rounding it to the nearest pound. So it's 25.425. And we want to round to the nearest pound, which is here. So we want to see what the 4 does to it, which is nothing. So then that's going to make, keep it at 25. Okay, so the average is 25 pounds. All right. And then the last one is, it says an automobile used 41 gallons of gas on a trip of 876 miles. What was the average miles per gallon? Okay, so miles per gallon is us taking the amount of miles we did, so 876 miles, and then we used 41 gallons, so it's divided by 41 gallons. All right, so I'm just doing miles per gallon is miles on top divided by gallons. So if we wanted to figure out an average to that, we're just going to divide them. So if we divide them, we have 876 divided by 41. So we get a whole lot. So 21, and let's see what it doesn't say anything. So if it doesn't say anything, we'll just round it to the nearest miles per gallon, because most likely if you're going to talk about this and actually do this calculation, you're probably not going to say we got 21.36 miles per gallon, you're probably going to say we got 21 or 22 miles per gallon. So we'll round to the nearest whole number, but show how we do that. So we'll take it out 2 decimal places. And I'm not going to round, like I'm not going to worry about the rounding yet. So I'm just going to take it out 2 decimal places, but then I'm going to round to the nearest whole number. So then that 3 is not doing anything to the 21. So it's just 21 miles per gallon. Like I said, we probably wouldn't put 21.3 or something like that. So we'll go to the nearest whole number. Okay, so next chunk of stuff is, so that was mean. That was definitely the most common one that you'll see and most probably familiar with. Then you have median, which is, so it's like mean, median, and mode are your 2 big ones, or your 3 big ones. So it is your middle value. What is mean? It is the middle value when in order. So we would have to put things in order to calculate that one. And then how do you find it? So here's kind of a little bit of a long-winded version of this, but we are going to put the values in order. Okay, and then eliminate values from both ends. So we'll like eliminate a high and a low, and then we'll go to the next high and low, and then the next high and low. So then we'll eliminate values from both ends until you find the middle. Okay, so we'll show that in an example. And then mode is just, that one's very straightforward. That is your most common. Okay, so let's do a couple. This thing is a TPR chart, which shows the patient's temperature, pulse rate, and respiration, your breathing rate. So it says following pulse rates were recorded on the TPR chart of 68, 68, 88, 76, 64, and 72. What is the median? So what is the middle number? First thing is we got to put it in order. So I'm going to start with the smallest number, 64. Right, and I like to cross them off to make sure that I've kind of covered values. 72, 68. So I've covered that, and then 72, 76, and 88. Okay, so I've covered all my values. I put them in order, and I'm looking for the middle number. So you might be able to just kind of see, hey, there's the middle number, but if you have a lot of numbers, it's definitely going to be trickier than that. So let me do the actual math on it. There's not really a math, but the process is I'm going to eliminate a high and a low. Then I go to a high and a low, and there is my middle number. So the median equals 72. What this gets used for a lot actually is if you're talking about the median home value. Sometimes the median is a better representation because an average could be skewed because let's say you have a bunch of houses all around the same value, but then you got this one that's some giant multi-million-dollar home thrown into the mix. That might significantly increase your average. But on a median, you put that really, really, really high one compared to all the rest of them, and they just kind of go away as you go through it. And then you kind of really, sometimes, so if you look at home values, most of the time you won't necessarily see what's the average home value. You'll see what the median home value is because some of the really high and the really low don't play a role in that. So you get a better feel sometimes for that. And then one last thing. So we're looking for the mode, and that just means we're looking for the most common. So we have hourly pay rates at a local fast food restaurant are the following: $8.50, $7.15, $7.15, $7.25, and $10.50. So if we're looking for mode, we're looking for the most common, which is there's 2 people that make $7.15. So your mode is 715. And there is a possibility that you could get 2 answers for mode. And remember that it's like, if there were 3 of these and 2 of these, the 3 would be the most common. So it just kind of depends on like which one has the absolute most of a certain category. But if they both had, there was 3 of those and 3 of those, then you could have two modes within a set of data. And then that happens. So, all right. So that was a quick refresher on mean, median, and mode.